What is happening, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of Park Lane Podcast, where we are joined by 4 people this week. Well, 4 people, including myself, which is nearly a full house. So we're getting there slowly. All we need is Big Dave to turn up and, well, anything could happen if that happens. But anyway, welcome back. And, this show is always sponsored by Manscaped. So we'll quickly go over what they have to offer, as they are a brilliant sponsor of ours. So head over to manscaped.com and you can get anything on their website for 20% off plus free shipping. Manscaped are a huge male grooming brand that offer a variety of products, from ear and nose trimmers to personal shavers. And they were kind enough to send me across one of their packs that included those 2 shavers that we just mentioned, a load of creams and different things, and the best pair of boxers that I've ever had in my entire life. So, head over to manscaped.com, use the code PARKLANE20 for 20% off, plus free shipping. And to talk about those people who have joined us today, we're joined by the one and only Winnie. How you doing, mate?
I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. I hope everyone's having a great Easter Sunday and, like myself, eating far too much chocolate. But other than that, I'm all good. I feel a little bit sick, but you know what? That will pass because we've got a lot to talk about. So,
yeah, exactly. Look, if you don't feel sick on Easter Sunday, you're doing it wrong. That's what I say.
Exactly.
Mr. Scarf, bet you had lots of Easter eggs this morning.
Yeah, not gonna lie, there's quite a few, so I haven't quite done a whole one. I've been a little bit reasonable, but of course, you can't be Easter Sunday without chocolate. So obviously, happy Easter to everybody. Nice to be back and talking about the Tottenham win, so that's nice. And previewing a couple of games as well. So couldn't ask for anything more.
Exactly, mate. The sun is shining and Spurs have won. Callum, how are we doing,
it's
mate?
not shining here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm like H. The weather's horrible and dreary down here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Jesus Christ, it's shining.
I've had to put the blind down.
Have you relocated to the Bahamas or something? Well, am I missing something?
Luke is streaming from a secret location in the Maldives. It's either that or he's living on Joe Lewis's private estate with all that cash money that got stashed.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, I'm all good, mate. I'm like the other guys. Ironically, I thought that my stream was off and I was still stuffing my face with Cadbury's Oreo chocolate at the moment. So probably not the most pleasant sight, me doing that.
Amazing. Right, let's get into it. We've got a lot to talk about today. And for those that are watching, a little secret, which I'll tell you about in a few moments. We've got to talk about Spurs win. We've got to talk about 2 Spurs games in the next week, thanks to fixture changes at the last minute. But let's get into a few of the comments quickly. Martin H was in at 3:21. Actually beat Jay in as the earliest comment of the day. So prize to you, Martin H. Jay said, good evening to everybody. And he's actually asked a question, which I will ask before we get into anything. And he said, 3 Spurs players in the current... I don't really understand what this means, though. In the current men's squad, who would you pick for me?
Maybe his favourite 3? His favourite 3, possibly.
Okay, let's go for favourite 3 players in the men's squad currently. Who would you pick? Callum?
Sonny, Madders, Romero.
Oh, that's not a bad shout, is it, Harry?
For me, Van der Ven and Sonny is nailed on. I probably struggle with the third one, but probably go with Pape Mate Sarr because, I can't state enough how good he's been in his first season, if you like, breakthrough season.
Winnie?
I'm not sure. Do you know what? I genuinely, I know this sounds sad, but I love this squad more than I have any other squad that we've ever had. So I'd struggle, but if I had to, Madders is probably top for me. I've loved him from when he's Leicester days, so he's definitely top. Just because of who he is and what he's done for us. Sonny is probably a close second, and then third, you could choose between Van der Ven, Udogie. Do you know what? I'm gonna put Udogie in there. Because I think he offers a lot and I think he's got a massive, massive ceiling. So,
okay, nice. I'm going to go Van der Ven, Sonny, and Vicario.
Ooh.
I just think that his little cheekiness and the way he winds people up is all good. But thanks for that, Jay. That was actually a really good topic. Let's go through some more comments quickly. So Barney's in the house, even to you, Barney. Johnny is in the house saying evening all. Who else have we got? That's it. So far, so if you're new and you're in, make sure you are saying hello. If you're listening on any podcast platform, leave us a review, all the good stuff. And if you're watching on either Twitch or on YouTube, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button. And actually, talking about Twitch, for those of you that are in the chat, we have a little secret for you. Me, Winnie, Holly Agambar, Kirk, Kieran, and Andrew will all 6 of us will be live directly after this stream. So 8 o'clock, we're going live on Twitch to play some more pro clubs. This doesn't cancel out this week's session. We'll still try and get another session in this week. So if you are keen on the series that we've been doing so far, there's a little sneaky Easter Sunday episode for you tonight. So 8 o'clock, we'll post a link after the show. Head over to Twitch and you can watch us play pro clubs. Winnie, what do you think of yesterday's game?
Geez, that's interesting. I don't think it was as bad as some people are making out. It certainly wasn't good, but I don't think it was as bad as some people are making out. And it just seems to be the way that we are at the moment now. We just seem to plug away. And you know what? I think, I'm not sure if this stat's going to come up at any point today, or whether someone was planning to mention it. We haven't scored in the first half this year at home, which is incredible. That's a ridiculous stat. How far we into this second half of the year. So to not have scored in the first half, but like I say, I'm just used to it now. But I would rather be the team we are now, plugging away and eventually winning the game than maybe being 2-0 up and letting Leeds slip. So the game yesterday, it was what I expected. I expected a tough game from Luton in terms of, set pieces and stuff like that. I didn't really expect them to trouble us too much. But look, we managed to grind it out, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. And I don't know, it was really difficult because, as you say, apart from that one incident where they scored, I don't think we were as bad, as you say, as the dramatic people across the internet make us out to be. But it's difficult to know because, I was looking at yesterday's game and I was like, we talked a lot about Timo Werner, right? And that's when we come to Harry next. So we talk a lot about Timo Werner, and I think he offers so much in this squad. But I just am getting a little bit fed up with his inability to score. And that's my only issue that I have with him. Even the goal where it was an own goal, he should have been fast enough to get on the end of it. There was another one 2 or 3 minutes later. Again, he should have been quick enough to get onto it. He, absolutely does the defender inside the box and should just slot that. That's the easiest finish. He's done all the hard work. So for me, that's the only frustrating factor. Apart from that, I think we played all right. I think we played against a low block side, but all they do is defend. And, I don't think it was the worst game I've ever seen. But, Harry, what do you make of yesterday's game?
Yeah, I thought it was frustrating in terms of, it's the worst it possibly could have started for Tottenham in terms of we go behind really early, Luton sit on it. But as you guys alluded to, Luton didn't really cause as much problems. I thought we were bad. If I'm honest, I thought we were bad in that first half. But still, Werner does for me well. His movement's very good, goes past the defender. But the easiest bit, he misses the chance. And I'm being funny, but I think that's harder to miss. And Son obviously hit both posts with one shot. So another day we could have been 2-3-1 up at half time, as bad as we were. So of course, as always with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club and the fans, there's an overreaction on social media, and we won the game. As far as I'm concerned, you don't remember the performances. You only remember the results. We won the game. Move on to the next one. We've got big games coming up. Am I worried when we play bigger teams? Yeah, of course, because we have to do a lot better. But we beat Luton. That's all that matters. Move on.
Yeah, no, fair enough, mate. And what do you make of Werner? And just because I know that how outspoken you've been about signing him on a permanent transfer, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that he's not very good. I'm just getting a little bit fed up with his finishing. And, it seems like he stayed behind an international break and, that's why he got into the starting lineup yesterday, according to Ange. What do you make of his finishing?
His finishing is a problem. There's no doubt about it. And I think, it's a shame because you look at his record, and I was doing again a little bit of research the other day at youth level as well, banging in the goals more than we see top strikers doing now. So it's such a shame. I think it was a lot of pressure put on him at Chelsea. He went for a lot mentally, a lot of stick from the fans. I don't think he's ever really psychologically recovered from that. I think it's a confidence thing with Werner. In his head, I think he's always got, I'm not going to score, and I think that's mainly the problem. Because I think his movement's fantastic, and out of anyone in our attack, I think for me, although he's only been here since January, for me, Werner's been the best attacker all season in terms of causing problems. And I think we're only asking questions of the likes of Kulusevski just because of how good for me Werner's been. Of course, I think he's probably even better off the bench than starting the game. But at this moment in time, I think he's got stocks as one of the better attackers. Johnson as well. A lot of people very critical of him, but he has more goals and assists than Odegaard, more than Martinelli, and he's played about half, if not less games than compared to both those Arsenal players. So I think in context, it's really important. For me, it's no brainer, 15 million. Whether you think he should be in the starting 11 next season, on the bench, in the squad, for me, 15 million in 2024, you have to have someone of Timo Werner's experience, which I don't think we have enough of on this squad. That's why I don't want to get rid of Højbjerg. Someone of Werner's caliber and versatility. So for me, before any movements done in or out the club, Werner securing for me would be the first thing I would do, and I want to see him in that.
Okay, nice. Callum, what do you make of the game yesterday?
I think it's been the same story for a lot of this season. Our teams haven't played better than us. We've just created our own problems, and our own moments of madness are what causes all the trouble for us. And that's the problem when you think of yesterday's goal. Kulusevski and Bissouma, both players who aren't on form at all, having their own problems. So I'm like all the other guys. I think that, the game wasn't as bad as social media put it. As we know, social media can be a turgid nest of crap and rubbish that we have to crawl through, and we sit there. I'm still seeing it now, just going through it, and all that's been added onto it was saying Saka got man of the match for the City Arsenal game, which was dog shit anyway as well. Sorry, Johnny. But it's where you had to climb through all the layers and see one person come up with something useful to say, we like what Winnie said, we haven't scored at home in the first half since the start of the turn of the year. That's a problem. We've then got all the bad rubbish where we're causing our own conceding goals. That's our problem. But Luton actually played well yesterday. I think for a team that is struggling relegation, I think they actually gave us a good go, which I was really happy with, considering. And Rob Edwards came out after the game and said that he was quite happy with how his team lined up, and said that Spurs are probably up there with Liverpool and a couple of the others as some of the best teams in the league. So it was quite complimentary from him, even if our game was one of the most boring that I have seen in a long time.
Fair enough. It's difficult with Spurs at the moment, but I think I'm sitting in a position where I think I would rather be watching this football, knowing that anything could happen until the last minute of the game, than seeing, as you say, Winnie, earlier, going 2-0 up and then thinking and being concerned that actually we're going to lose this against anyone. I want to talk quickly, Harry, about Destiny Udogie, because if I look at his movement for the Luton goal yesterday, everybody was high up the pitch, but he was pretty much in a right wing position at that time. Then I watched the replays of the goal and watched him run back. Well, that was what I didn't see him do. I saw him pretty much walking back to the halfway line while Bissouma was trying to track Andros Townsend, and then Son came in, and it was the whole thing was a massive mess. My issue, though, was Destiny Udogie. He's a very, very young player, and I'm not knocking him at all. I'm just saying that you have to be able to sprint a lot faster than that in the opening minutes of the game to track back if you're going to play that high at the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, if we're being critical, then who we're blaming for the goal is Kulusevski, and people say it's fine margins, but that's a very, very simple pass through on goal that probably would have led to a goal, if not a very good chance and sight at goal. He's got it completely wrong, and then has failed to track back. Udogie's got to do more. Son's got to do more for me. And as for Barkley, how much time did he have to take a touch, to turn, to swivel, and to pass? It was a certain goal. I mean, I think me or you any of us here could have scored. We're giving them, and that's the problem here when we're coming up against Manchester City and Arsenal later next month, and Newcastle's, your Liverpool's. But you can't give them that time. The game will be done before half time. We won't, keep waiting to half time to get Ange's team talk and to make changes before we're actually seeing any improvement. We can't do this. We do this against Arsenal, let's say, then the game's done. There's no point. There's no point in turning up the second half. So we have to be very, very careful the way we go about it. Luton worked the goal well, really good counter attack. But how many times have we seen it? When we know that the opposition's going to counter attack, why are we that high up the pitch? I don't know what Doggy's doing there. He didn't need to be there. For me, just got in the way and confused Kulusevski, as bad as the pass was. Doggy's got to do more. A bit of inexperience. I do worry with the Doggy. As much as I like him, I think, I look at our upcoming games, Luke, and I go, a Doggy is very vulnerable of losing his head. And we know that the game's so much harder to win with 10 rather than 11 men. So, and he didn't track back. As simple as that, he didn't track back. He's one of the few that didn't. Very, very poor goal conceded. And Luton, you had Adebayo in that, or you had a few more players that they had out, 10 senior players out, then, it would have been maybe a different story in that first half. So that's what we've got to be careful of. Although we're sitting here, yes, we won the game, we've got to be careful. Results do matter, but bigger teams is a concern. But Doggy's got to do more.
Yeah, no, I agree. Winnie, there was a moment in the first half where Son had a moment of brilliance. He got round the keeper, and the world seemed to just stop, and the balls hit both posts, bounced out, and then Timo Werner had a shot. That's been blocked. And then Pape Sarr's had a shot. That's been blocked. And James Maddison stood there the whole time, just like with his hands out, like, why did no one give me the ball? At that point, are you sitting there like me thinking, we're going to lose this game today? Like, it's just not going to happen for us.
Yeah, it was that. It was probably at that moment I looked at, I just probably looked at the wall and went, it's just going to be one of those days. Like, we need to just accept it now that it's going to happen, because that is football, and that's the beauty of football. Even though it doesn't go in your favour, that's just how unpredictable or predictable in this case it was unpredictable, but it was predictable at the time that it was just going to be one of those days where you just try so hard. And I mean, like genuinely, Sonny couldn't have done any more than he did. Because he had such a little angle and little space to try and get it into that, and he did so well. But for it to hit the post, roll along, hit the other post, I mean, I think the only real chance that Madders could have had was maybe Werner could have squared it to him. But again, we're talking about Werner, who is maybe lacking a bit of confidence. So to see him in that position go, do you know what, I'm going to hit this first time and have a shot at goal, I quite like it, because if it was a Werner of no confidence, he may have squared it to Madders. So, as a striker or a winger or a forward, whatever you want to label him as, to take that on, I'm all for it. And then obviously falling out to Pape Sarr, and he's had a pop at it, and someone's blocked it on the line. Look, it was a comical moment, but again, I like the fact I would much rather be seeing that than seeing us on the back foot at home. So, we just need to be patient. And I think sometimes we get a bit carried away. Because we think that we think we're better than we are, but we think we should be 2-3-4 up against these teams. But the Premier League has evolved. There isn't any, other than maybe Sheffield United, I would say possibly. There's no one in this league that should just roll over and you should be battering them. And you used to see that with the Premier League. You'd have even all the three teams that came up, you could guarantee at home you're probably winning about 3 or 4-0 if you're a top 6 side. There doesn't seem to be that anymore. So that specific moment was comical, and I did think that I did fear the worst, but look, we kept plugging away, and that seems to be the new Tottenham now.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And that's really interesting. You'd much rather be seeing this kind of football than seeing us, struggle against a team like this as well. And that's what it is. At the end of the day, people need to pay very close attention to what Ange Postecoglou is saying. I do not care where we finish in the league table if we're not finishing or trying to finish first, right? Because what's the point in playing if you're not going to try? Basically, is what he's saying. This season is all about testing the waters. It's about testing the players to see how they react. It's about analysing the team and saying, okay, this is the position that we desperately need a player in. They've already said 6 is the position that they require, out of everything else. He doesn't care if we finish top 4. I'm sure part of him does care, but most of him doesn't care. If we finished 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. because the position he wants us to finish in is first. Now, of course, we're a long way off that, but I think people need to just calm down a little bit in regards to what's happening. And, we said it at the start of the season, we will concede goals, but it'll be bloody fun, whatever happens. Callum, I want to come to talk about half time now because Ange made a really early substitution, took Kulusevski off and brought Johnson on. Now, Kulusevski isn't the only bad player or player that's been playing bad recently. I think ever since James Maddison has come back from his injury, I think he's been below par. Pretty poor, I would probably say, for his standards compared to how he started the season. Do you have any kind of thoughts on why Kulusevski's playing so poorly at the moment?
I heard an article that he did on international duty with Sweden, where he actually went quite in depth in how he applies his stuff from Spurs, the national team, how he takes Ange with him as such in spirit to do team talks. But the key point of it was a journalist in Sweden asked him, what is your best position? And he said through the middle, so either as an 8 or a 10 in some sort of attacking format. I think the problem is when you've got him and Maddison in the same team, they're both playing for the same space, the same opportunities. They're both wanting to go into the same areas of the pitch. So that's where Ange actually said after the game that he thought Kulusevski was good because he created the 2 chances for Son and Werner in the first half. But he was cutting in too much. He likes that signature left in swinging boot that he likes to do, and he was just taking up too much space where he was just trying to come in. And when you're trying to do that against 5-man defence, you're not opening the lines up, you're closing them down, if anything. So that's why I think Ange considered to change it. But Werner was the strongest probably in the forward line in the first half. He had them runs, he had the opportunities going down there. Son was non-existent. Maddison was trying his best, but Kulusevski, by all accounts, was the most frustrating one to Ange. So that's why I think he did go with Johnson to come in and give that sort of extra dynamic. And it's what we were saying a couple of weeks ago, where with these low block teams, you don't want to be coming into the middle. You want to be going out wide. You want to be using all the space for it. And I think that's why he did make that change. But I think you could have said Song could have been hooked. You could have hooked Maddison. You could have hooked Basuma. You could have hooked anyone yesterday in that sort of midfield approaching upwards, because none of them played well at all. It just happened to be that he wanted to put someone on the right, so Kulusevski was there at the moment, but he could have hooked Maddison and moved Kulu in the middle. And this is what we all love about Ange's teams as well, that we have so many options in there that we can hopefully just pick and choose what ones come in and what not to. And that's what, like your point you were saying about this season isn't about how high we finish. It's about the evolution of the team. It's about working out who's going to play for us next season, who's good, who's bad, who can do what. And I think like we've all alluded to, if players don't want to do that for Ange, he's not going to take it. But he said yesterday that everyone should be, like the journalists want him to be sympathetic. We should wrap Kulusevski up in cotton wool and give him a cuddle. He said he's got 25 beautiful people back in that dressing room. He can't think about feelings. It's about what's happening on the pitch. And it just weren't happening for Kulu yesterday. And it proved by bringing Brennan on what can happen. And it has. The stats say what it is, and it did work against Luton.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Harry, I'll come back to you talking about Ange, because we have been critical of his substitutions this season. And I think he made 2 very good substitutions yesterday. One, half-time, which is to bring Brennan Johnson on. Obviously, he had 2 assists in that game. The pass for Son was just absolutely sublime, or the touch, I should say, was absolutely sublime for the second goal. But more importantly, actually, we saw for the first time, I think, and changing ever so slightly, because as soon as we scored and went 2-1 up, he took Son off and put Højbjerg on. And I thought, I tell you what, that's a really, really sensible thing to do. We fought all game to get back in it. The last thing we want to do is concede. Do you think that he's changing ever so slightly, in those latter moments to say, do you know what, we've got the win now. Let's just hold on and be a little bit more sensible?
Well, listen, he got his. Yeah, we have been critical, and I think rightly so of his changes, but he got it absolutely spot on yesterday, and that is the reality, and that's the reason we're sitting here talking about a win rather than a loss or potentially a draw, if not. Kulusevski, I don't want to be too critical of him because he's a very key part in us getting top 4 under Conte. I personally don't think he suits the system. I've said this before in the position that he's playing in, and obviously, at the end of the day. I'm fully seen his article, but all that matters is that whether he's performing on the pitch or not in terms of an Ange Postecoglou point of view, and he's not. So he had to come off at half-time for Brendan Johnson. It made sense. Luton were tiring towards the end of the first half. They needed half-time. It was common sense to look at the likes of Brendan Johnson and go, look, you're very, very key. And that, I'm someone who's really liked Brendan Johnson from day one. And I've said, still, don't want him starting. I want him off the bench as opposition tires. It'd be exactly the same Tuesday and exactly the same Sunday as well. When opposition tires, you can start Kulusevski if you like, but bring Johnson on for fresh legs. I don't necessarily think he'd be good at the start, but Ange got his selves right yesterday. Bringing Højbjerg on, as you say, when we're winning, it's just common sense at the end of the day. And you have to sometimes, leave your kind of model and your philosophy behind and go, what's going to win Tottenham Hotspur the game? Because again, no one's going to remember the performance or the substitutions you made, but we're going to remember the result. And bringing Højbjerg on is going to protect that result, which it did. And whatever you think of Højbjerg, he specialises in that defensive aspect of his game, and he's just absolutely class at it. Again, I've made it very clear I would not be shifting him out the door. And I think obviously Højbjerg's come out and spoken. Some people say he's been outspoken, but I think he's well within his rights. He's gone from, for me, number 1 choice midfielder at Tottenham to being 5th or 6th down the list. In terms of him, he's done nothing wrong. You have a right to be frustrated. But answering your question, Ange got the subs rights yesterday, even with Lo Celso, it made sense. So all the substitutions he got spot on. So credit Ange Postecoglou in this case.
Yeah, exactly. And look, at the end of the day, we won the game. We got the 3 points, and that's all that matters, especially with Villa winning in the evening as well. Because we still want to finish as high as possible, regardless of what Ange thinks or where we think, we should finish. But let's move on because we've got a lot to talk about. And Winnie, we'll come to you and talk about Tuesday night's game away at West Ham in their cup final. I always think it's weird, isn't it, with West Ham? Like, I'm a bit over all these rivalries, to be honest, anyway. Like, in a sense of, like, I don't really like Arsenal, but I don't really hate, I think hate's like a ridiculous thing in football. I think that, life is a lot difficult in itself than hating people because of the football team in this sport. But anyway, talking about West Ham, I don't ever really care or think about West Ham, but I always think that they think about us a lot. What are your thoughts on Tuesday night's game?
I think you're exactly right what you're saying. They make out it's a big deal, whereas genuinely, like I always do, I look for when the fixtures come out, I'll look for when we play Arsenal, and I'll look for little periods, like what we've got coming up in April, where we play a Man City, a Liverpool, and Arsenal. Just consecutive fixtures. I couldn't give a toss about West Ham. I don't look for them one bit. Maybe years ago where we were quite close in terms of ability, possibly, but I mean we are far superior now, so I literally could not care about them. But they still make a big deal out of the fixture, and as you say, it is their cup final. I never like going away to West Ham. I never really like going away in any London derby, but for some reason Mikel Antonio just turns into fucking Pele every single time we play them. So I'm not looking forward to that. Hopefully, he can have some sort of injury that rules him out from the game early on. And I think if we was to do that, that would nullify any kind of threat that they have against us, because I don't think they really have anything against us other than Mikel Antonio. So if we can keep him quiet, West Ham were a bit of a weird side. They are kind of like creeping. I didn't realise until I checked the table, they're actually not that far behind us in terms of position. So they're obviously doing a lot better than we maybe give them credit for. But I mean, I don't know what their record is like this season at home. But I still fully expect us to go there and give them a tough time and come away with 3 points.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about Mikel Antonio, I think that hip thrust of his gives me nightmares on a daily basis, to be honest. But anyway, Callum, do you feel the same as Winnie? Do you think that kind of doesn't really matter to you? Like West Ham did beat us earlier on in the season, and so I think it is important that we, every game is important that we get 3 points. But do you think they have a lot to be feared, or do you think that we should be confident of a win on Tuesday?
This game has a little bit more of a different connotation for me. So my other half's dad is a West Ham fan, and he's from that area. So it's either he's taking a piss out of me or I'm taking a piss out of him. It's one of them where it makes a very interesting night if we ever watch the football together for it. But no, West Ham's never really, since they moved to that Olympic Stadium and moved away from Upton Park, I just think we're going to the running track tonight and all that. We're just going to go and play somewhere where theoretically it was a memorabilia of London. But West Ham always overtreat it as something really special. I think it's because their rivalry with Millwall isn't there anymore, so they've kind of had to replace us as the closest team to them, apart from Orient. But because of the way that them two clubs have de-evolved from how they used to be, Spurs are the closest thing they've got to something special, unless they play against themselves. You never know. They could play against their under-21s. They might enjoy it. But the game itself, I think, for us, we're coming into it on dodgy form, and West Ham are going to feel hard done by in the Newcastle game at the weekend. So I think they're really going to be up for it because Kudus, Bowen and Antonio all were ready to beat up some Geordies on Saturday, and it really went down bad for them. So I think definitely there's a connotation where they're going to be really up for it. I think if we slow out the traps like we have been since January, I reckon, whereas we all said a couple of weeks ago that a big pasting was coming and we thought that was Fulham, that could be West Ham, and that will have a big downer for me on there. But it's just personal opinion. It's some people care about rivalries, sometimes we don't. I'm kind of surrounded by every team that I couldn't want in my household. My brother's Arsenal, my mum's West Ham, my older brother's Man United, my other half's dad is West Ham. So I literally have no choice. And then I've got one of my mates at work is Chelsea. Literally, I'm fucked one way or another. So these games are all quite big games for me, and I will still stick by the old sort of rivalries from London every single time. I don't want to lose to these guys, but as we've proven, we can get trounced by them. And West Ham have got some weird figures against us in the past where we've always thought we was good, and we've always got them booted up the air on big occasions.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, mate. Harry, actually, do you know what? I'm going to come back to this question. I'll ask all of you in a minute. It was kind of going on to my comment about rivalries in general and how, football fans are. We'll come back to that. But, H, what do you think about West Ham? You saw Calvin Phillips giving the old middle finger to someone as he got on the bus the other day. Do you think that they have something for us to be worried about? I still get so bored of them under David Moyes, but maybe if you're right, maybe there is something to worry about in terms of how well they've been playing recently.
Yeah, I'm worried, if I'm honest with you, in terms of what they bring going forward. As Callum said, I think already alluded to, that they want revenge after losing to Newcastle. But for me, in terms of the whole rivalry thing, etc., as far as West Ham are concerned, I don't give them the time of the day. They're too small for us to worry about. You've seen the way they celebrate when they win a newly invented trophy, which is invented. If you look at the description on Google, it's invented for clubs that aren't very successful to have another chance of winning the trophy. That's all you need to know. In terms of the Calvin Phillips thing, I don't have a problem with that. The amount, I know people say, you have to be professional, the amount they get paid, yes. But at the end of the day, and I'm not saying this did happen, but if you're hurling abuse at a player, you can't expect them just to ignore it. So fair play to Calvin Phillips. I don't think it was the reason that they capitulated against Newcastle. But again, as all you need to know about West Ham fans is they're doing the best they've ever done. They've won a major trophy, and they're competing in around that top 6, 7. Yet they want David Moyes out. I can't get my head around it. I'd love them to get rid of David Moyes and we'll see them back in the Championship. Absolutely fine with me. But no, I'm worried about West Ham going forward. But in terms of the whole rivalry thing in general, like to give you an example, my dad worries more about it than me. He'd be like, I don't care if we lose here, as long as we beat West Ham, Chelsea and Arsenal. For me, I feel like with Arsenal, with Chelsea and West Ham, of course you don't like it when you lose and you get rubbed it in, etc., school and whatnot. But what I care best is for Tottenham, and I want us to win every game. Arsenal's different, because there's something different about Arsenal. But in terms of West Ham, I couldn't care less about them, to be honest with you. But I will rub it in when we win. So I suppose there's two sides to it.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Not gonna lie.
Right, let's go round real quick because we're running out of time slowly. But Winnie, I'll come to you first. What do you make of football rivalries in the sense of, the very old school mentality is, there's hatred towards other people who support, other fans and people who used to, well, they still do, fight on match days and all that other absolute fucking fake masculinity nonsense. But what do you make of that whole thing? Because, the older that I get and the more I kind of do this kind of thing and talk to different football fans and kind of look at everything in a certain way, I couldn't care less anymore. Like, yes, I'm not a big fan of Arsenal. Yes, I would love us to beat Arsenal. But I don't, there's nothing that makes me think, oh, I fucking hate those. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just mental to me. But is that just me? Or is that like, how do you feel about this whole thing?
Do you know what? Like, for me personally, maybe it's a generational thing, because if I was to compare myself with my dad, we are stark contrast in terms of, like, my dad genuinely feels sick when we lose to Arsenal, and he little things like, I don't know, he wouldn't get anything red because it's Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel strong enough about that, right? About rivalries and the fighting and stuff like that. That's just, I think that I genuinely, people that do that, I genuinely don't believe they hate Arsenal, or not just Arsenal, but I genuinely think they don't hate their rivals. I think they're just finding an excuse to fight. And they just happen. It just seems to be acceptable. You couldn't go, for example, you couldn't just go up to anyone on the street and just punch them and get away with it. Whereas I feel like at football, you kind of, even though you would still get reprimanded to some degree, I feel like it's acceptable to fight at football, even though it shouldn't be. So no, I don't care enough. There's far much worse things in the world to worry about than your team losing to someone who's geographically close to you. And let's be honest, even Arsenal aren't, because they're from fucking Woolwich. So why are we even rivals with them? They're not from North London. So let's think about that one. But no, with rivalry in general, I couldn't care less. Yes, I don't want to lose to them. And I will probably be, if we lose at home to Arsenal, I'll probably be pissed off for half an hour and then I'll just get over it, to be perfectly honest. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, definitely. Barney said rivalry for me is there, but I can take it or leave it. Every game is important. I think that's right. Harry, you're the younger generation. Is this something that the younger fans are like, or do you see that kind of old school mentality still there? Do you see none of it? Like, kind of what your thoughts been a young man?
I mean, there's nothing better, but there's nothing better than football rivalry. I'm really looking forward to my first North London derby this year. There's nothing better, especially when you win. And we've seen some fantastic scenes. Even not necessarily rivalries, but we've seen at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and how much football means. And I think football's a time for everybody to enjoy it, but you can't excuse the fights. We've seen these West Brom Wolves. It seems to be every year in Europe that we should be seeing in football. Football's for everyone and should be bringing people together. It should be safe for everyone. I always think that people who turn up to football should be guaranteed that they're going to return home at the end of the day. And sadly, scenes we're seeing, there is no guarantee of that. So that has got to be a number one priority for Premier League, for UEFA, for FIFA, for anyone, to guarantee that safety's got to be a priority. I don't think it is at the moment, to be honest with you. And that is the real problem. But overall, I love football rivalries. And it's great when you win, put it that way, but it's not when you lose. You just want to completely disappear. But I'm someone who gives it large to a lot of people, so I absolutely deserve it when we get it back, like we lose to Chelsea or whatever we've got coming this season. So it hurts more when you lose, like West Ham. It will hurt because you know the West Ham tops will come out. You haven't seen them for 2.5 years, but they come out, and they're still talking. But generally, I think you're safe. You have a nice time. Football's important. Football's very important for some people. Ultimately, it's sometimes taken out of context. We saw an individual example I like to use is West Brom and Wolves. I think the rivalry is great. The game was great, but we didn't need to see what we saw off the pitch.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Callum, do you have anything to add on football rivalries for a minute before we move on?
Just quickly from me, it's literally because of my line of work. I work with a lot of tradesmen, so it's very much quite a hostile environment in the first place. So it does add an extra aspect of it. But I'm like H. You can give it all the talk, but there's a difference between brawling at games and acting just like a wanker and all that. You can have a bit of fun, you can have a bit of banter about rivalries, you can give a load of stick, but there's limits to it. You can't go around berating people and insulting them on the back of rivalries. You can't go around fighting, and there's got to be a limit to it. You've just got to do it in moderation and not like some of the ultra fans that are out there, which cause more grief than they're actually worth, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. And, kind of touching on that, I think it's important to say, if you're going to go to football, don't be a wanker. Go to the football, enjoy yourself, and get home safe at the end. And that's the most important thing. Right. So let's move on. We've run out of time pretty much. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about score predictions. So obviously we've got West Ham on Tuesday, and we've got Nottingham Forest on Sunday. So we're going to go all the score predictions. Now, as there's a double game week, things could change because the scores for the Luton game were me, 2-0 Spurs. Don't know why I wrote it the wrong way around.
Says Villa.
Oh, wait, hold on. I put up wrong...
And that's for Palace. That's for Palace as well. So you got Villa, Palace, and Hot Lane in it. Fucking hell.
One moment.
So there's no rivalries. It's just us against Luke at the moment.
I know, yeah. Give me 1 sec.
Bring it on.
We'll boycott the podcast.
So the scores were me 2-0 Spurs. Willie went 4-2 Spurs. Dave went 4-1 Spurs. Harry went 3-1 Spurs. And Callum went 3-1 Spurs. So nobody got a correct score. So this still isn't right. Everybody basically got a point. So everyone add a point onto here because this isn't right. So it's 29, 23, 19, 18, 16. I did download it all, just didn't upload it before the show started. So anyway, whatever. Let's move on. So we'll go around the table and get everybody's West Ham score predictions to start with. Now, to keep everything fair, because I am top of the league, I will go first. And I'm going to say 3-1 Spurs.
Wow. You're bold. Wow.
What have you been smoking?
Winnie, I'm coming to you next.
God knows.
2-2.
2-2, Desmond.
Yeah.
2 draw. Okay, we're going to come to Harry next.
2-1 West Ham. Antonio Brace always seems to turn up against Tottenham.
Okay, 2-1 West Ham.
To West Ham. Yeah.
I didn't even know he was still playing, Antonio. Callum.
I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs, so I'll go opposite H.
Ooh, this could blow the whole thing wide open this week.
This week should be a big week for who's going to be in the title race, who's going to be in the relegation battle with Callum. Sorry, Callum.
Barney's gone for a 1-1 draw. Johnny said West Ham away, 3-2 West Ham.
Oh, shit.
Jay's gone also for 2-2 Winnie, so he's gone with you. And let's go straight into the home game against Nottingham Forest. Just to keep things fair again, I will go first. So I'm going to say 3-0 Spurs.
Oh
Nick
my
Scroller
goodness.
on the score this week.
Who do you think we are? Who do you
3-0
honestly
Spurs.
think we are? Oh my God.
Callum, I'll come to you next.
I'm going to go 3-1 Spurs. We just can't keep a clean sheet. Sorry, Win. You look like you're just taking a shit in your pants, mate.
Winnie?
Yeah, 3-1 Spurs.
Okay. And Harry?
2-0 Spurs, clean sheet.
Wow.
Hey, do you go into the game as well?
I don't know
no.
yet. I'm waiting to be confirmed because it's obviously been moved. So I'm
It's
not
Sunday
sure yet.
night. It's Sunday night, isn't it?
Sunday night. So
6
I'm
o'clock.
hoping. Yeah, 6 o'clock. Yeah, spot on.
So Jay's gone for a 2-0 Spurs Johnson brace, and Barney has gone for 2-0 Spurs. Right, that pretty much wraps us up. Apart from, just want to mention about FPL, as Jay did put his comment in.
Bye.
As always, on a Sunday night, still hasn't updated, so we'll have to go with the table as of now. So as of yesterday, Dave is still top with 1,721 points. He's now got a 40-point lead over Al Malone, who has 1,681 points.
Need to do something about this.
We then get to me in 8th place on 1,601. Then we have Winnie in 10th, 1,542. Harry Scarf in 14th, 1,436 points. And Callum on 1,276 points. In 16th place. So all to play for in FPL. We've just got to somehow derail Dave because he's absolutely walking away with it at the top of the league. And maybe I'll come up with a little, what do you call it? Forfeit for the loser. We'll
oh dear, Callum. What's going on?
Anyway, thanks everyone for joining tonight. Harry, I'll come to you first. How can everyone find you?
Yeah, firstly, thank you very much for having me once again. You can follow me if you like there, Harry Scarf 22. But go check out my channel, Scarfy Spurs Talk. We've got the weekly show Monday, 7:45 p.m. So that should be a good one as always. And the week after, we've got a very strong panel. I'm going to keep it secret for now, so stay tuned the next 2 Monday shows. But this Monday, we'll be dissecting that Luton win, but also previewing West Ham. So it should be a good one. And tonight, I think I'm going to do a video on Dejan Kulusevski, dive a bit deeper into why I think he isn't performing this season. So that should be a good one. But thank you very much for having me once again. And should be able to find me next Sunday if I'm not going to the game, but who knows?
Exactly. And that's a good point, Harry, because Johnny has said, wow, you play Nottingham second half while the stream is on next Sunday. Yeah, we will be we'll be changing the time of the show next week. Haven't decided when yet, but we will be changing the time, so it could be 8:30 instead of 7. But I'll let everyone know. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/ParkLanePod, and you can find us on there, and we'll have all the updates. Winnie, how can everyone find you?
Yeah, Winnie1991 on Twitter. But more importantly, you can see my face on Twitch on Park Lane Podcast straight after this podcast. So make sure you head over to there, and also in the week as well. We haven't figured out a date. It's usually Tuesday, but obviously we're playing Tuesday against West Ham, so we're looking potentially Wednesday or Thursday, either. But obviously, forget about that because we've got one today. So make sure you go and do that.
Exactly, mate. Do you know what? Like every week, you can't do Tuesday, and we have to rearrange it. And then this week, you text me and you said we can do Tuesday, and Andrew said to us we can't do Tuesday because Spurs are playing on Tuesday. So, what is this life? We'll get it sorted at some point. Thanks again, Winnie, for joining us. Make sure everyone heads over to twitch.tv/Park Lane Podcast, or just search Park Lane Podcast on Twitch. Callum, how can everyone find you?
As always, mate, Callum Stubbs 97 on Twitter. Obviously, some people will like my views, some people won't like my views. I really don't care anymore. They're my own. People can take what they want from it and just live their lives for it. But obviously, give everyone a follow on the pod. Make sure you tune in. And like next weekend, we will be on later, but we'll let you know. And obviously, me and you, Luke, have been trying something different, didn't we, on Friday to see if it might join the podcast, but we'll see in the next couple of weeks if it does work out or whether it just takes up too much more of our time as well. So that might be something that we'll announce in the next couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, definitely, mate. So if I wasn't busy enough, having a job, running a business, doing 2 streams a week, we've now decided that actually could be worth adding another stream to it. So watch your space. We are going to work hard in the background on that. But thank you guys, all of you, for being on once again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks to everybody in the chat for all your amazing comments. Head over to twitch.tv/Park Lane Podcast now. As soon as we finish this, me and Winnie will be on with Holly, with Andrew, with Kirk, and with Kieran playing some pro clubs. So that's it from me. Have a great week, everyone. Look after each other, and we'll see.